All right, I am live. I don't know why that didn't really work the first time. This light is a little weird. I am in my music studio, and yeah, so it's been a couple weeks because, well, the holidays and other things, right? And today we're talking about fear. Talking about fear. I got a whole series on love, and I got a whole series on fear. This light is going to be annoying, I can tell. But I'm in my studio, which is where I might do most of the videos now. Um, what else was I going to say? I'm not sure, but I'm going to start on this vlog, on this video about fears. Fear being a feedback loop, a negative feedback loop. And this is something that I've been thinking about for a while because fear being one of those things, well, it's an interesting topic because we've had debates on this live stream before of fear. And I've had the opinion in the past that fear is never, ever, ever a good thing. Fear is always a negative thing. Fear is always a bad thing. But then there is the debate of fear being good because it can protect you from harm. My argument to that has always been that fear protecting you from harm is the difference between smart and stupid. Uh, and yeah, but I still have much to think on with that whole thing because I do think there are some really good parts to fear, protection being one of them. But I think that a number of, you know what? Is this mic working? To anybody watching, is this mic even working? Hello? Is this mic working? Is my computer mic working? Yes. Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that interruption. I usually have these dots there that shows me whether or not it's working or not. But anyway, I try not to do that in these live streams because I know that's annoying for people that are watching it again. But here we go. Fears being feedback, negative feedback loop, right? So good and bad side of fear. The debate being whether or not fear can be good, of course. And so that is a debate. But there are also what I'm going to call objective fears and subjective fears. I'm sure that there could be other categories for them, but I'm going to put them in subjective and objective. And what I mean by those is that you can have objective fears being you're afraid of snakes. That's an objective fear of mine. Terrified of snakes. You're afraid of water. You're afraid of heights. You have some sort of phobia of some kind, something, you know. And then there's subjective fears, and there's these fears. Got that one out. These fears being fear of abandonment, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being good enough, fear of being alone, fear of rejection, and there's so many more other subjective fears. And I guess you could call them internal and external fears, subjective and objective, right? So I'm not talking about uh objective. I mean, there could be this sort of negative feedback loop with objective external fears, but I am more so talking about internal subjective fears uh to individuals. I guess it would be better as external and internal fears instead of objective and subjective. Um but these types of fears, the subjective, the internal, is going to cause a crazy negative feedback loop. And you might not even realize it. Well, these fears, I've noticed in my own life that these fears that I have, a number of subjective internal fears, have been literally chaining me down in life. And it's not even until I address them that they get that I realize it. Honestly, it's not until I address them that they get healed and that I can start to work on them. Because obviously, the first step to whether you call it evolving, awakening, whatever, is that realization. And oftentimes, that awakening is towards something more along the lines of a unconditional love, and that's from a standpoint of fear. So, for me, awakening coming into that realization, that awareness of that fear is, what is that's going to be the first step to fixing it. So once you become aware of it, let's see, just looking at my notes here. Not confronting the fears you had. You're literally making your life worse by by sticking to these fears because you don't want to give them up. And I'll talk about that. And let me preference before this that I am not talking about how the fear actually came to be. I'm not talking about like whether it be trauma or whether it would be that it just happened to you. I'm not talking about any of that. What I'm talking about is like when you've noticed the fear, when you've become aware of the fear, how to break that negative feedback loop, and even just realizing the feedback loop, realizing that there is a feedback loop there. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm sure that I could make another video or have another discussion on how fears will even come to be, because I feel like that would make an interesting video and that would be an interesting topic to cover. But right now, I'm going to explain the feedback loop, and then I'm going to talk about how I think you can break that loop. So, the example that I want to use is, and I might stray from this a little bit, but the example that I wanted to use is a fear that I constantly and consistently have is a fear of being misunderstood. So, what happens? You speak your mind at some point, you speak your mind, and it's not received, your opinion was shut down, whatever. And your only thought was, they don't get it, they don't understand me, you know, I am misunderstood. So, what does that do? You get in your head when you don't talk because this is fear. This fear is telling you that you will be misunderstood if you talk, basically. And you just learn to shut up. You learn to not talk because that's what this fear eventually develops. And obviously, this is something that develops over time. Like this is something that time and time again, you share your opinion, you share, whether it be a unique point of view or whatever, you come out and you say whatever it is, and then over time of you constantly getting shut down, of people constantly like not wanting to hear your opinion or whatever, you develop this fear of being misunderstood. So this fear is telling you you'll be misunderstood if you talk, and you convince yourself that every time you do desire to talk, that you're going to be misunderstood. Uh, so you hear a conversation and you have these thoughts and opinions in your head. You literally already feel misunderstood, and you haven't even said anything yet because the fear is telling you that you are already misunderstood, so you don't talk. So it started out as something like the fear of being misunderstood. Started out you sharing this opinion and you talking, and you are misunderstood. That happens time and time and time and time and time again. So you develop this belief that you are misunderstood every single time that you share your opinion and you talk. So what does it do? It shuts your voice up. You stop talking. You stop sharing your opinion. And then every time you want to share your opinion, even if it only happened a couple times, I mean, it only needs to happen 2 or 3 times for somebody to be like, you know what? I'm misunderstood, especially by people that they care about, especially by people that they feel loved with, that they are in love with, like someone that holds significant value in your life. You share something to them and they don't get it, you develop this fear of being misunderstood. Then you're like, well, they're never going to understand me. And so you just stop talking. And so then an opportunity presents itself again for your unique perspective, your unique point of view. And then you just don't share your opinion because you have this belief that you're already misunderstood. And so it becomes this loop of every single time that you want to share your opinion, that you already have that you're misunderstood because it happened to you a couple times, probably by people that you really valued. And so you don't even speak your mind. You don't speak your mind. You just shut yourself up and you're like, you know what? I'm always going to be misunderstood. And that fear constantly creates itself because as you don't share, as you don't share your fear that you're going to be that you're going to be misunderstood, or as you don't share your opinion, then it compiles onto those few experiences that you had by a loved one or something, and then you become even more scared. You become even more scared because you keep building on this belief that your opinion doesn't matter and that you're always going to be misunderstood. So it's this vicious negative feedback loop that's paralyzing you from speaking your mind, which is what you probably need to do. So if you have a fear of being misunderstood, it's probably because you have been, not. It's probably because you have been that like you have been misunderstood. And guess what? That's okay. It's not because you're dumb or weird or whatever other lie that you want to believe about yourself. But it's because you're uniquely you, and no one is like you. I mean, this has been the cure for me and feeling misunderstood and like sharing my opinion is instead of developing the belief that I'm always misunderstood. It's actually like I have a really unique perspective and point of view, and I had to learn to actually value that. And then when I share it, if people don't get it, I'm like, that's fine. Like it's a really different, unique point of view, and that's totally fine. So I'm not even worried about it then. So it's kind of like I learned how to love myself, which isn't inherently how you break that feedback loop of being misunderstood is loving yourself more, so loving your opinion, valuing yourself. I mean, we could even take it to the Bible and throwing that verse in there, don't throw your pearls before swine, which is really this beautiful analogy of I take it as, and I guess I just listened to enough Jordan Peterson to don't share your opinion with people who aren't going to value it, who aren't going to value you. And maybe you shared your opinion with somebody who didn't value you. And then that's why you felt misunderstood. And that's why you started developing these beliefs. You valued them, but they didn't value you. So you actually need to get out of that relationship so that you do feel understood by people and that you can break this fear. So, fear of being misunderstood, breaking it by loving yourself, breaking that negative feedback loop by learning to love yourself more, that you have a unique perspective. So sharing your opinion in a general manner could stir up some really great conversation and solve a lot of problems. In an extreme manner, it could save somebody's life. So what I mean by that is that you withholding your opinion, I'm specifically talking about the fear of being misunderstood. You withholding your opinion is going to, like, on a surface level, like you could have some great conversation. You could stir up some great conversation by simply learning to speak your mind more and learning to develop your thoughts, even, which reading helps with that, and speaking and doing it more helps with that. But in a extreme point of view, you could even save somebody's life. So I mean, that's how important it is, I think, for people who have this fear of being misunderstood to really speak their mind. So, um, so how do you break through this negative feedback loop? Specifically, in my opinion, how I've broken it with having this fear of being misunderstood, you speak up, and you learn to value your own voice. Now, that is the fear of being misunderstood. Now, there are definitely other fears, like it's a fear of being misunderstood. They're all interesting in their own way, but they all have similar things. Like, okay, fear of rejection, for instance, is obviously it starts out in a way that you've been rejected, probably by somebody you value and love, and then um, you develop this belief that you don't have value and that you will be rejected every single time. So guess what? You actually never get rejected because you never put yourself out there. But you develop this belief that you're going to be rejected. And so again, every opportunity that presents itself for you to get out there and to introduce yourself or whatever to whoever it may be, you're like, I'm going to get rejected. You have this belief that you're going to get rejected and that it's about you. And so it's funny because people that have, like, seriously have this fear of rejection never ever experience getting rejected because they never put themselves out there. They don't even realize they have the fear until they do. And so that's kind of a sneaky one. But again, the way to combat that, again, loving yourself internally. Because if you truly believe that you're someone, like, if you get rejected, that's on them. Like, that's totally on them. Like, if you believe that this really good person who doesn't need to be not doesn't need to be doesn't deserve to be rejected. And like they actually wouldn't reject you if they really knew you. Like if you believe that, if you have enough self-respect and self-love for yourself, that's what's going to break the loop, and then you're actually going to get out there because you're like, "Hey, instead of believing that I am this piece of trash to the world, that I'm good for nothing and I'm just going to be rejected because I'm good for nothing, you actually believe that you're a gift." And so you put yourself out there. And so really all of these come back to self-love. It's this negative feedback loop that the fear creates. And you really got to catch these fears almost, because these fears will just sneak up on you, because obviously like the fear of rejection, you don't even know if you have a fear of rejection until you get out there and be rejected. And you're like, shit, I got this fear of rejection. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being alone. Like some people have no idea how to be alone, because they're always with friends. They're always like extroverted people. This will be an interesting topic of discussion. Extroverted people. Do extroverted people are they extroverted, or do they have a fear of being alone? I have met both. I have met truly extroverted people, and I've met people that have a fear of being alone, and so they can't be alone because they're just scared to be. And you can find that inside of relationships too. Fear of not being good enough, fear of abandonment. I mean, I think I've already said most of these. Fear of hurting people, like all of these emotional internal fears can be these feedback loops, because we develop these beliefs and then it just becomes this endless feedback loop of us just constant, and it compiles like this fear, and so we just become petrified of letting ourselves go, of getting out there for whatever reason to confront whatever fear. um so yeah, self-love is what breaks this negative feedback loop that the internal subjective fears bring. So that is that's it for my notes. That's what I got. And the funny thing about these live discussions is that I complete my thoughts as I'm talking. um, I didn't really. I'm literally writing it down now, because what I want to do is take these. The video is basically done. I'm just gonna scoop into the live here and start answering questions. So if y'all have any questions for the people that are watching, start typing them out, and I'll start talking about them and answering them. It's great to see all of you, by the way. Love that you're here. Um, so yeah, I talk it out. I don't even know, like I didn't really finish this thought. I was like, I'm just gonna make the video and I'll start talking. So I didn't know fully before I pressed live that self-love was is what breaks the negative feedback loops. And that's why I'm writing it down, because I want to take all these notes and stuff and eventually either write a book, do something small, do something fancy. I don't know. But here we are. So that is the end of the video, and this is the live session. So if you're watching this after the fact, um, you don't have to watch anymore, and or you can keep watching and listen to me either rant or answer some questions or what have you. I try to do these on Friday nights. Try. I'm still developing like a sort of schedule to do them. But yeah. So, do you give feedback? Do I give feedback on electronic music? I can give feedback on electronic music. Jesus Wizard Spatula. That's a hell of a username. Fear is the active ingredient for the one-eyed farmers since the beginning. Okay. Jesus Wizard Spatula. Please explain that one more in the chat, because I would love to. IDK, I don't know if Nate likes EDM, but I'll take a peek when he's done. I'm kind of picky about EDM, honestly. Do you give fear? Okay, I already read that. My only fear is regret, but my only regret is fear. Ooh, that's a good one to talk about. That's a really good one to talk about. Regret. I've heard Andrew Garfield in this acting video that I watched of him. He was doing this actors on actors with Amy Adams. If you haven't seen that video, look it up on YouTube now and watch it because it's phenomenal. That was when Amy Adams was in, I think that was 2016. Amy Adams was in Arrival, and Andrew Garfield was in Hacksaw Ridge and Silence. All absolutely incredible films. But in that interview, Andrew Garfield says that he thinks regret is a beautiful thing, which I always thought was interesting because Amy Adams had a different perspective. She was like, "I don't like regret. I don't ever have regret. I don't think you need regret." And regret, man, that's one of those things where there's a couple sides to it. Regret is, on one hand, you could look at it as stuck in the past. But on the other hand, you could look at it as a learning tool of regret being, you know what? I feel this way because I probably shouldn't have done that. And so I'm going to look towards a brighter future and not do that again. Now, you can't be afraid of regret because I think that's held me back. I've known that's held me back because I'm like, I'm not going to release this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to say this because I think I'll regret it. You got to go for it. You got to take some risk. You got to live a little. And then, and I mean, it totally subjective because it depends on what you're talking about. But, you know, get out there and live life, do what you do. And, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, good. Honestly, if it doesn't work, then good. Like, then you've learned, not going to do that again. And you don't have to live in the past. This is what I have these I don't know if they're like emotional goals for 2020 that I've put on the background of my phone, because I've noticed that I do all of these things a lot and I'm trying to break out of that. It's let go, stop living in the past, communicate your feelings despite how it might hurt other people. Got a problem with that? And forgive yourself when you fuck up. Um, so if you fuck up, forgive yourself. Let it go. Tomorrow is a new day. So regret can be bad. Regret can be bad if you live in it. If you live in the past and you constantly just beat yourself up, you got to forgive yourself. But regret can be a good tool. Regret can be a great tool to, have you can look back on what you did and you're like, you know what? This is exactly what I did, and this is exactly what I'm going to do to avoid myself doing that again. And so fear of regret, you might want to look at that as possibly a fear to live, to truly live, a fear to thrive, a fear to, you know, get out there and do it. Now, of course, I'm only seeing your comment right now. So, um, totally subjective to whatever experience you're having or whatever you might regret, whatever you did or what have you. But yeah, that's what I think about regret. It can be good and bad. It can be a tool, or it can be, yeah, your worst enemy if it turns into a fear, because then obviously you get that negative feedback loop that I just talked about, and there you go. So, yes, sir, yes, sir. So I am going to stay on this live I'm going to make these video, unless there's a ton of people in the chat. I'm going to stay on this for 7 more minutes, make it a half hour. And if people keep joining the chat, people keep talking, then I'll stay a bit longer. But if it seems dead, then I'm going to call it a night. So I realized that this is going to take some time for people to get back into the rhythm, because there was people who were constantly coming to these Friday night lives with me. But it'll just take time, and I got to be consistent too. I got to keep reminding myself to do these on Friday nights. So I like what you said. Just wish more people would comment. It's all good, man. You don't got to be the only one commenting. And I'm not sure where the other people went. Jesus Wizard M. I want to say MS, but it's capital M, lowercase s. I don't know what happened there. They are afraid of spiders, apparently. Um, Y'all, the skeptic. I remember you. I feel like you were at Friday Night Lives before. Um, but anyway, yeah. So just for the next 6 minutes, I guess I'm gonna rant about my my phone background, my to-do list of what I'm going to do. You know what my goal is for 2020, and I feel like these have to do with fear, because I I've heard it said that the fear of it's perfectionism. So I have a serious problem with being a perfectionist, like a really bad problem with being a perfectionist. Um, it's why it was so hard for me to like do videos like this for a while because these videos are not perfect. These videos aren't even edited. Like, what's going to come of this? But I don't have any idea. But I was afraid to make them because I was like, nobody's gonna watch them. They're not gonna be perfect. And obviously, the most people that I've had on this live chat has been like 9 people or seven to 9 people, somewhere around there. Tonight I've had up to 50 people on these things. But people really enjoyed the lives, and so I was like, why not? So having to rid myself of perfectionism because perfectionism, I've heard it said, is the fear of abandonment in disguise, that if I'm not perfect, then people are just going to leave. People are going to go. People, not going to care, whatever. And so everything I do, whether it be in a relationship or my music, I've got a big problem with it with music. My music has to be perfect or I can't release it because then nobody will listen to it. And if nobody listens to it, then my life has amounted to nothing. Super dramatic, but that's kind of how my brain works. Um, so Yeah. These I don't know how I got on that, but these all have to do with fear. So let go, right? Letting go of the past. Stop living in the past. And that's why I was talking about regret so much because I feel that. I think I feel that a lot. And I just got to learn to, okay, this is what happened in the past, and now what happened happened. Instead, what I usually do is I'll be like, "This is what happened, and oh my god, I could have done this. I could have done this. I could have done this." Um, no, what I say is, "I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done this." But the thing is, I didn't. And the thing is that it's not fair of me to say I should have. This is what one of my best friends told me. It's not fair of myself to say, I should have done this. It's fair to say, I could have. I could have done that. I could have, but I didn't. I could have done that. And I think that's a better way to look at it. And that's a better way to talk to yourself. So letting go and stop living in the past, you know, some of my New Year's, um, what I want to do for, you know, the mental clarity that I want in 2022, and then communicate your feelings despite how it might hurt other people. I got a problem with this because I got a fear of hurting other people. Because if I hurt other people, then they're just going to leave. Because why would they stick around somebody who's supposed to be a safe place and supposed to be this and that and whatever, if I just hurt them? So also dealing with that. And then I have a little side note under that, and I say, you can't control how they feel. I can't control how other people feel. That's what I got to remind myself of, and stop being the peacekeeper. Ooh, I should make this a whole separate video. Stop being the peacekeeper and start being a monster. I was just journaling today, and I came up with this whole thing in my head that was super good. And I kind of want to make it a live discussion, a live video, that people have told me I'm patient. You're so patient. You're the most patient person I've ever known. La da da da. And I think I've mistaken patience for. I'm gonna go back in my journal. I have my journal on my phone and see what exactly I said. Um, oh, So I said, so I need to not be patient for change because I've been patient for change, like people to change or situations to change. But it's not a virtue. That is not a virtue. That is self harm. And you need to tackle it, and you need to speak the truth in the moment. And I got a really big problem. I have trouble doing that, and so I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to do that this year. Um, so stop being a peacekeeper. It's not your job to protect yourself from them. So I have been a peacekeeper a lot of my life, and I'm learning how to break that. And the last thing was forgive yourself when you fuck up. Let it go and move on. Tomorrow's a new day. And I use fuck on purpose, by the way, because fuck, I could say, um, God, I've just, what does it say? Here's what I said on my phone: forgive yourself when you fuck up. I could say forgive yourself when you mess up, but I intentionally put fuck up because, for one, it's the background of my phone. So if any of my family member or whatever picks up my phone, they see that I said fuck. And the reason I do that is because I'm so used to protecting myself from a lot of my family members because I'm like, they don't swear, they don't think this, they don't think that, they don't do that. And so I don't do any of that around them. But I'm like, you know what? This is my phone. This is my life, and I need to start living it for me. So I intentionally put fuck there for that reason, and because it's more of a aggressive word and I need to be more aggressive. I need to be less patient and more aggressive. And so I intentionally made it a point to say, forgive yourself when you fuck up, not mess up, fuck up. And then the note under that is let it go, move on. Tomorrow's a new day. So anyway, it has been 30 minutes. Live is so cool. I don't care why they get less traffic. I don't know, man. Um, that way they get mad and you find out they had the phone. Yeah, basically. So it's been 30 minutes. Hopefully more people will pop on some Friday nights. But until then, um, I'll see y'all later. And this was awesome. Hope you guys get something out of this. For the people that are watching this after the fact. Hope you all get something out of it. Please comment below your thoughts, like, subscribe, and share. And see you misfits in the next one. Peace.